so much focus on television news with the ugliness of the debate. I wanted to show a little clip that actually brought some reason and scholarship into the picture. This is from Bill Moyer's show last Friday night, reshown on Sunday. The title of it is Money-Driven Healthcare, and he has taken a lot of it from a book by Maggie Mahar.
Yes.
And the clip starts with her talking about the problem. I recommend the entire show, but let's just tune into this
Let
clip.
me just mention that Mr. Morris has spent over a month every Friday night presenting the truth about health care.
Yeah.
His speaker from a medical insurance company, a former high-ranking officer of a medical insurance company, Wendell, was it Potter? You all, did you see it?
I can't remember the name. I
Wendell's
didn't see it.
first name anyway. And he resigned from the company. He couldn't stomach it anymore, and he's speaking very well.
He's been on various
We need more
shows.
people
For
like
single
that.
payer.
Right.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Let's see this.
After World War II, while other countries let the government begin to intervene in healthcare to make sure everyone got care, to regulate it to make sure it was good care, in this country, doctors very, very strongly opposed any government involvement or anyone being involved in telling a doctor what to do. After Medicare was passed in 1965, elderly patients were getting far more care than they had been before then. And that's when our industrial medical complex, I would say, took off. By the early 70s, there was so much money involved that suddenly people began to say, you know what? Medicine is too important to be managed by doctors. We all know doctors are bad managers. What we need are businessmen managing healthcare. And that's when healthcare went from being physician-centered and controlled to a large degree by doctors to being controlled by the corporation and the CEOs of those corporations. And over time, more and more, the CEO of a hospital would not even be somebody with an MD. He would be somebody with an MBA. And CEOs bent on growth, bent on higher quarterly earnings, quarter after quarter and year after year, are always pushing for more sales, more revenues, more and more and more. It produces more, but more may not be better for our health.
Whole lot of scholarship that goes behind that. She is a financial reporter who was assigned to this job, has been worked on it for years, and so she really knows what the incentives, what the perverse incentives that are unrelated to actual health are, and that's not. I mean, I feel like Obama has talked about incentives a lot, but it hasn't become part of the debate.
I think an interesting thing Bill Moyer said on a Real Time with Bill Maher this last Friday, he said Obama really needs to be fighting and not finessing. And I think that's really critical. I mean, he needs to be out there really challenging these interests. And he could really educate the public and say, tell the public, you know, the truth, and say, get behind the real answer to healthcare. And he's not doing that. He's not fighting these interests. He's trying to finesse and work with them, invite them. We've been talking about insurance. Mostly we're talking about insurance reform, but there's other aspects to healthcare, including the pharmaceutical aspect. And we just had this is indicative of Obama's position. We just had a memo leak that said there was a White House backroom deal to remove language from the healthcare reform bill about negotiating lower drug prices or importing drugs from Canada, among other provisions that would infringe upon these drug company profits. And so that's really indicative, I think, of that position. And
yeah,
so
absolutely.
Are
It
you
doesn't
all-
matter how far you go in trying to compromise with the Republicans on this.
Right.
You can bend over backwards.
No.
You can leave out a public plan. You can leave out this,
Right.
leave out that.
They're
not going to agree with it. It doesn't matter what you do. I think we just need to chuck the idea
Yeah.
that we're going to cooperate
Yeah.
with Republicans on
Right.
this. And try to get the Democrats alone behind a
Right.
decent health care bill.
Right.
I hope that can include a public option, though. I'm not sure with the Blue Dog Democrats.
Right. Even if there
Against
is
a
one,
public
yeah.
option, I'm not sure you're even going to get that. But I'd rather have something than nothing.
What I think
I'd much rather have something than nothing.
The problem is sort of his presidential philosophy. I think sort of the idea of what people think of a president in general. People think that, president needs to really try to always get bipartisanship and these things. We didn't see Bush do that at all. But what really I think he needs to do is come out and say, we need single-payer health care, and this is exactly why. And then even if it fails, that's fine. 2 years, we can replace the whole Congress. And so he can tell the people, this is the answer, and if people are blocking this, you replace your congressman, and we'll have the real answer to health care. I mean, it's difficult, but I think...
I'm worried about that, though, Abel. Think of what happened to the Clinton administration, a very similar situation.
Really, yeah.
In 1992, he was elected into office. In 1993, he starts and it doesn't pass his health care program. In 93 and 94, he fails at passing the health care program. Did a Democrat sweep come in 1995? No, it was the Newt Gingrich Congress.
Right.
That's when the Republicans really took over Congress. I'm afraid that if Obama fails with the health care bill, that we're not going to get a second shot anytime soon. That's why I say we need something rather than nothing, and this needs to be some kind of a victory for Obama.
But if he passes something that's not good, that's been so watered down, and essentially, may even help the companies that we need to be challenging, that could put a bad precedent for him. That could turn off.
Happened in Massachusetts. The insurance companies have made out better with the universal mandate.
Yeah, the mandate can actually force people to buy.
Oh, well, everyone has to buy a policy.
Yeah, you're required to buy a bad product.
Right.
But I want to ask you all a question. Instead of this worst case scenario, what happened to Jimmy Carter when he came into office and proposed the return of the Panama Canal to Panama? And he started fighting the day when he hit the White House steps, and he was victorious. And so what are you all suggesting, or are you able, that had President Obama from the very beginning endorsed and embraced a single payer, we might have gotten it.
Right.
But I heard him say on television, I don't have a proposal.
Yeah.
This is going to be up to to Congress.
Yeah, he was trying to do that differently than Clinton had done it. Clinton had a proposal, and they presented it.
That's true.
And it failed. And so Obama's trying it the other way. He's saying he's going to stay flexible, and he's going to let Congress develop the program.
I think it's interesting, though, is he's starting out in the middle, to where he's halfway challenging the special interests. Whereas if he'd started out with the ideal, then he could have negotiated down to something. He's starting out in the middle, and then it's being watered down to something that's going to end up.
And as a matter of fact, the Democratic congressman who voted against the bill, Congressman Kucinich, for example, but there were several dozen who voted against it. All of them said this bill was going to be worse than nothing.
That's the hope, I think, is that we do actually have a considerable progressive proportion of the Democrats are progressives that do care about the public interest, which is what's important. And so we have the blue dogs sort of trying to weaken the bill, but we have even more progressives than blue dogs that are saying, if we don't have a strong public option, we're not voting for it. So I think that's where the hope is.
But what will happen then, as Art is saying, we will have nothing? It'll be right back where we were?
Well, I don't know. I mean, if it's going to be, if it's going to be a bill that helps the insurance and drug companies, which is what it looks like it might be, I mean, I'd rather see that fail and maybe, try single payer in the near future.
I think the question is going to be, is the bill going to be a starting point at least to build on? Or is it going to kind of shoot itself down by just not being the kind bill you can? Could you build it into it?
That's a hard question.
Could you add on a public option later?
I think that's
the best we're going to be able to do.
I do think that's what Obama had in mind with the public option, and finesse is a very good word for it. That's what he's done his whole career. He finessed the campaign, the Democratic campaign, by being so smart about how to handle February. He is a long-term looker, and I think he imagined that he would be able to get the public option to change the game. But if it's not going to change the game enough, then isn't it up to the next election for somebody to run on this and say, okay, we tried everything but single payer?
Well,